My name is Bethany Arbaugh, and today I'll be speaking on an ethical dilemma known as information poor or information poverty. First, I would like to recognize that access to information for patrons is an entitlement. This is determined by the American Library Association's Code of Ethics and is even outlined in the Library Bill of Rights. It sets up the ethical standards for librarians across the country, yet there is an ethical dilemma occurring. The issue of information poverty, caused by the lack of access, is perpetuated through marginalization and oppression of certain groups. To understand this issue, we must learn that the ethical codes that guide us as librarians. There are four dominant theories in ethics that influence information ethics and codes. These dominant theories are consequence, duty, rights, and virtues based. Don Follis in the Information Ethics for a 21st Century Library Professional lays claim that a combination of these four views are the best application for librarianship ethics. In fact, we can see their influence in the Code of Ethics of the American Library Association. This includes the right of a patron to have access to information, as quoted in their first statement of their ethics, which is displayed here. Recognize that a patron has the right to access. But what is more important, equality or equity? Democracy is often central to librarianship, but the idea of democracy was created in the equality of all men, generally cisgender, white, heterosexual Protestant men. This idea of equality has formed a system of advantages for one group and disadvantages for others. Fair and equal access appears different for each citizen. Therefore, the use of equity allows a bridge between the gap of systematic oppression. It levels the playing field. Libraries are areas of information, and they should create policies and mission statements with the idea of equity and provide a progressive perspective in the face of systematic injustices of access. The librarian of the 21st century should strive to be progressive. A progressive librarian is a socially responsible one. This form of librarianship protects the ethical commitment, such as the American Library Association Code of Ethics, made to patrons. To be a neutral librarian is to promote the oppressive status quo. Libraries cannot be neutral in a system of oppression. To understand the oppression of people in areas that lack access, we must recognize the intersection of our social identities. A progressive librarian should acknowledge the frameworks that their community members must deal with. Intersectional identities shape patrons and their access to resources. The lack of access and the lack of resources creates those who are considered information poor, as they are often in low-income or poverty areas. Those in higher income areas have a multitude of resources and income to be able to donate to their local libraries. This creates a form of information rich versus information poor. The American Library Association recognizes the issues of low-income areas. It's the professional's responsibility and moral obligation of all members of society to aid in creating resources for those in low-income areas. Yet there isn't any policies or statements focusing on the association of information poor and its cycle. In essence, information poorness is the lack of access to information due to the socioeconomic status of the library and the community. Those who have access to high-speed internet and technology, and those who do not, is the digital divide. The digital divide is part of the information poverty issue. Rural and low-income areas are central to these challenges. Examining another problem of information poverty, the recent debate of alleviating fines is occurring within librarianship. It is one of the many suggestions to mitigate the fear that prohibits low-income households from utilizing the library and accessing any resources that they provide. To patrons who are poor, it is just another bill to pay. It should not be a philosophical statement of responsibility created by the institution. For example, the Salt Lake City Public Library was able to eliminate their fines, and they found that checkouts rose by 10% and new cardholders rose by 3.5%. I have found American libraries need to work towards allocating their resources in a more equitable form, acting in a theory of progressive librarianship, therefore allowing areas that suffer from information poverty to to prosper rather than struggle in the systematic marginalization. The American Library Association, as stated in their Library Bill of Rights and Code of Ethics, have the goal of access to all and upholding democracy within the communities they serve. Yet they allow information poverty to continue without any forward statements on the matter. Members of the Library Association need to express their opposition on this unethical issue and work together towards an equitable future. In conclusion, the ethics of information science and the American Library Association call for equity of the communities they serve. To ignore the issue of information poverty is to perpetuate an unethical standard. Mending the issue of information marginalization cannot be done overnight, but library associations that publicly and actively work towards a better future for all patrons are making an attempt at ethical and progressive librarianship.